Alright. So my part, I did at the end of the play when Proteus he's about to rape Sylvia, but Valentine comes in and then he scolds Proteus kind of. And he tells him how ashamed he should be, and then Proteus he apologizes, but then after he says that, Valentine he doesn't even get mad anymore, and he says, "Then I'm paid, and once again I do receive the honest who by repentance is not satisfied, is nor of heaven nor earth, for these are pleased. By penitence the earth the eternal wrath appeased, and that my love may appear plain and free. All that was mine in Sylvia I give thee."
Okay, I think it's kind of stupid that kind of like one that like Proteus like even trying to rape Sylvia in the first place, and that also like Valentine. I feel like he should have been like more like mad at him, just because like it's like an immoral thing to do in the first place, and then like if he was already like in a relationship with Sylvia, like, I feel like people would be more mad if the relationship was doing it.
And I feel like his reaction, like his down low reaction, maybe means that in that time that people did it a lot, or that it was common. It's like sad and hard to read about. But maybe that's why his reaction wasn't as alarming as we thought it would be.
I mean, going back to that, as I said in the last one, whereas like people back then really meant what they meant. So when it was like, I will never, when Proteus was like, I will never do that ever again, Valentine back then in his mind would probably like, oh, that means he's never gonna do it again because the man always keeps his word.
Yeah, I think it's kind of surprising that they became friends again, because it's not a right thing to do at all, and he betrayed him, so I don't. It's kind of awkward how they became friends again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Shakespeare was thinking, but this continuity is totally like destroyed. Like the entire plot that's like building up to that point is like
just randomly put that in.
Yeah, like unnecessarily like destroyed. And I don't know, maybe that was great writing back then, but right now it seems the ending is kind of stupid.
Yeah. Maybe he was trying, maybe not Shakespeare, but Valentine forgave Proteus easily, either because he somehow understood what was going on between, like, he was like, oh, it's okay, you were just like in love with the person I was in love with, or because he just wanted to go back to that friendship that they used to have.
I mean, maybe it was like kind of like Valentine was like, or like you said before that it was like common back then, so maybe Valentine just like was like, yeah, I would have done it too, so I forgive you.
I mean, I'm not sure if Valentine himself would have done it. Like, I don't know. It's just
maybe Valentine just wasn't that serious about it, like as you would think he would be.
I mean, like maybe Valentine himself was like, yeah, if I was in another country and talking to another girl, I'd probably fall in love with her too, even though you like her.
Okay. So why did you choose that passage, Ryan?
Alright, so I chose this because, well, first of all, I agree with everything you guys said. It's definitely not a right thing to do by Proteus, but I think what Valentine did after was, he didn't even try to he did defend Sylvia and he did scold Proteus, but he should have done way more than that. He should have like stopped being friends with him. He probably should have maybe punched him a couple times, but he didn't do anything. And going back to what you said about how it was common at that time, maybe I think it's because back then women, they weren't respected as much. They were kind of just kind of treated as like a nobody. And so if someone was about to rape your girl, maybe he just thought, well, she's just a girl, so maybe that could have had a factor. Yeah. And even in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, I remember at the beginning of the play, these two guys, they were like, oh, I see one of the maidens then I'm gonna rape them or something like that. So maybe that has an effect. And also, Proteus, I think Proteus has a bigger fault than Valentine, obviously, because he was the one who tried to rape him. But it's not. But the fault isn't that much bigger than Valentine's, since, as I said before, he should have done more. And Sylvia, after this all happens, though, what I think is kind of weird is Sylvia doesn't even have a problem with it after. She just goes on and is like, well, all right, let's just all get married. So that's also really weird to me. So.
So the part I chose was at the beginning. So it's what did I read from? Okay. On a love book, pray for my success. Upon some book, all love, I'll pray for thee. That's some shallow story of deep love. How young leader crossed the Helen's point. That's a deep story of deeper love, for he was more than over shoes in love. 'Tis true, for you are over boots in love, and yet you never storm the houses. Over boots? Nay, give me not the boots. No, I will not, for its boots be not. What? To be in love, where scorn is bought with groans, coy looks with heart-sore eyes, one fading mirth, with 20 watchful, weary, tedious nights, if happily won, perhaps a hapless fate. If lost, why then a grievous slave of one, however, but a folly but wit. You call me a fool? So by your circumstance I feel your proof. So it's like when Valentine's like, why would you give up such a big trip just for a girl? It's just the very beginning.
Okay. So I kind of feel like this is very ironic because at first Proteus was like, no, I don't want to go because there's this girl that I really love, which is Julia. And like after he goes, we find out like he immediately falls in love with Sylvia. So I feel it's kind of ironic that he said that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of one of those scenes where like if it didn't happen, the entire play would have been like completely different because if like Valentine didn't like kind of like put into like Proteus' brain that like, oh yeah, you should like go and travel and like our gap year and stuff, then like Proteus would have never left and he would have still been in love.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, it might not have been that big of an effect because Valentine still would have left, and if he didn't force Proteus to go with him, in the end, it still would have been Valentine and Sylvia most likely, and then Proteus and Julia still together.
I think it's like kind of like he didn't really. I don't think he cared about either one of them that much at all because like he changes his mind like so quickly, kind of like in Romeo and Juliet, where they get married after like a couple days. So I think it really kind of shows that Proteus is just like he's not actually in love with either one of them. I don't think.
I mean, yeah, like I think this play is trying to show like how nothing is permanent and nothing stays the same, nothing is static. It's always constantly flowing. So like when Proteus goes to Milan, his entire mindset like is just totally changed after he sees Sylvia, like totally forgets about Julia and the promised ring that he and her had and shared together.
No, that's definitely true. Because that could also relate to today. Like, so there's like these memes on Instagram where it's like where they talk about like loyalty, and it kind of relates to this play. Like, for example, as you said, Proteus, he just left Julia. He wasn't loyal to her, and it kind of relates to today's. It's kind of funny in today's topics, unless it happens to yourself, obviously.
Yeah,
mean, I chose this part of the play because, like you said, I feel like without it, the play would have been a little bit different, or it at least gives us context since it is the first scene. But it's because Proteus says he doesn't want to go on this trip because he's in love with this girl who later on he betrays and shows that he never did really love her. And without this scene, we wouldn't have known that he betrayed her, because we would have found out later, but it's important that like it set the scene. And then also because then later on when Proteus has the letter from Julia and lies to his dad and says that it's from Valentine inviting him to his gap year trip, we wouldn't have known that if not for this scene. But I think the main part is that Valentine says that being in love is stupid, and later on he falls in love with the girl, and then Proteus takes that girl, which I think is also very bad. But the main part is how he said he would do anything for this girl who was Julia, but he ends up betraying her anyways. And it's ironic because Valentine, like I said, being in love is like being a slave, but then he ends up doing everything for this girl he falls in love with. Oh my god.
Mine was like the part where like Proteus gave like that big like monologue, and basically he said, "Julia I lose and Valentine I lose. If I keep them, I must lose myself. If I lose them, thus find I by their loss. For Valentine myself, for Julia, Sylvia. I to myself am dearer than a friend, for love is most precious in itself, and Sylvia witness heaven that made her fair." So basically he was just picking Sylvia over Julia and like throwing away everything.
So going back to the theme of irony, this entire play is like just one huge dramatic irony itself, because Proteus is, as we said before, Proteus is breaking his pledge to the girl that he left back at home almost immediately the moment he sees Sylvia. Like,
He didn't even see Sylvia, he just heard about her. It was like the way Valentine described her.
yeah, like the real life implications of that someone would call you like stupid or dumb for like just throwing away a girl you've given all your life to. And yeah, like back to like Romeo and Juliet, maybe like falling in love at first sight was like a common theme back then, because recording. What was I saying? Romeo and Juliet, where they were falling in love. They were falling in love, and they fell in love pretty much practically at first sight. And they even had masks on, so they didn't even know what their faces looked like, so it wasn't even really at sight. So maybe it was just a common thing to like love unconditionally.
I think the reason he fell in love with Sylvia is because you know how little siblings always want like what they can't have?
Yeah.
So he like heard how Valentine described her and how she was so amazing. So he was like, ooh, I want her because I can't have her.
Yeah, it's true, because like you have to keep in mind they're still young. They're still really young.
They're 18.
Yeah, they're 18. They're going on their gap year, so they haven't matured fully yet. They're still like learning a lot of stuff. So obviously they're gonna make some mistakes.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of jealous of Valentine, and he just wants to get Sylvia just because he has her. So I don't think really Proteus cared about Julia in the first place, because I think he just wanted to have a girlfriend and to be like as good as Valentine.
Yeah, I mean, I find it kind of funny that like most of Shakespeare's characters that play in this play are all like in their teenage years, like they're all in their teens, and like even if it's older, like in Romeo, he's like just break past adulthood, and he's like in his early 20s, so yeah, kind of funny.
Okay. Well, first of all, I like chose it because like without like this scene, it's kind of like the turning point in the entire play because without it, well, I guess we wouldn't have anything that comes after it because Proteus would have still been in love with Julia and Valentine and Sylvia would have done everything, so it would have ended the same, but we wouldn't have any of the main context in the middle. And I agree with what you said about like the entire like play constantly like going like contradicting itself and like having like a huge feeling of like irony because of like how Proteus like promised Julia that he wouldn't cheat on her and then that's like exactly what he did. Like he didn't even like wait like too long, he didn't even like even think about it. And also about like all of like Shakespeare's characters making like really like rash decisions and like making stuff like really like drastically, like Romeo and Juliet falling in love like in like a day or two, and like Proteus like not even like thinking about like Julia and just like deciding to love Sylvia like after hearing about her in like a 10-minute conversation.
I think it's funny how Sylvia plays hard to get, which really doesn't help the situation. Because then Proteus is like, oh, more.
Then it comes back to like the thing about like what you said
He
about
wants what he can't have.
yeah, he wants what he can't have, and so it just kind of pushes him to keep pursuing her.
Okay, so my text was at Act 3, Scene 2, where the Duke is talking. Pretty much in this text, the Duke is telling Thurio that Sylvia will love him now that Valentine's out of the way, and Thurio whines that Sylvia will hate him even more now that the love of her life has been banished. And then Proteus is just like, oh, don't worry, I'll help you, Thurio. But really, he's actually tricking him so that he can have Sylvia himself. What do you guys think about that?
So I think that Proteus is actually pretty smart for doing this. He's sabotaging someone else so that he can get Sylvia for himself, but he really goes this far just to try to get a girl that he just met, and I think that's kind of silly.
Yeah,
like, he shouldn't have done that.
I agree. Proteus is pretty manipulative, and I think this is a big part of the text that really highlights his character well, because he goes to a very high extent to be able to try and marry Sylvia.
Yeah, I agree, but like I mean like I get like how it's silly, but like I also feel like it shows like how like determined he is and like how like he's kind of like willing to go to such like far lengths.
Yeah, I feel like in a different situation, had Valentine not been in love with Sylvia first, what Proteus did might have seemed like sweet, like adorable or something, but since he was betraying his son, everybody thinks it was the bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, you start talking.
Alright, so I chose this piece of text because it just shows how many misunderstandings and how many underlying motives and how much dramatic irony goes into the scene, because the Duke believes that Thurio will make Sylvia his, but Sylvia hates all of them even more because Valentine is gone. And Thurio believes that Proteus will help him, but Proteus is actually going to stab him in the back and use him as like a scapegoat for why Valentine is gone. And Proteus thinks that Sylvia is going to like him more because he's like doing this entire plan, but in a sense, she hated him from the beginning for betraying Valentine. So I just find it kind of like really this entire scene just very ironic because people are trying to get things that they can't and trying to achieve things that we as an audience definitely know they won't be able to achieve. Like, and even like when Proteus, like in Ryan's scene when he was trying to rape her, he was still trying to get what he couldn't get and forcefully do what he knows that Sylvia does not want to do with him. So he says like, if I can force you against like nature, then maybe I'll be able to have a chance with you. That's what I think about that scene.
Okay, so mine was Act 3, Scene 1, when Proteus is he's calling out Valentine to the Duke, and he says, "My gracious lord, that which I would discover the law of friendship bids me to conceal, but when I call to mind your gracious favors done to me, undeserving as I am, my duty pricks me on to utter that which else no worldly good should draw from me. No worthy prince, Sir Valentine, my friend, this night intends to steal away your daughter. Myself am one made privy to the plot. I know you have determined to bestow her on Thurio, whom your gentle daughter hates. And should she thus be stolen away from you, it would be much vexation to your age. Thus, my duty's sake, I'd rather choose to cross my friend in his intended drift than by concealing it heap on your head and a pack of sorrows which would press you down, being unprevented to your timeless grave."
Wait, what scene was that?
Act 3, Scene 1. When Proteus calls out Valentine.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking like this shows how maybe like Proteus was like the outlier in this situation, but like how like privy or no, that's not the word. How useless the bond of friendship could be, because when someone sees something that they want and like let's say like their friends are in the way, they will immediately throw out that one person that is getting in their way, even if it's friends or family.
Yeah, I feel like it shows a lot about his like character too, because he just like so like quickly just like threw Valentine under the bus, and he was like, oh yeah, those are his plans, and like I guess it was like kind of clever too to like sabotage him, but it definitely like it kind of like showed about like his like their friendship and how like it didn't matter as much.
Yeah, so I think it mattered more to Valentine, which is why he was able to forgive Proteus so easily when he like performed such a like not good act. So, but at like the thought of just a girl, Proteus gave up their whole friendship that they had, probably like their school years. So I think that's really disappointing in Proteus because Valentine puts in more in their friendship than he does.
Yeah, but then you have to also you have to like feel bad for Valentine kind of, because I remember in the scene before this, Valentine was actually bragging to the Duke about how good Proteus was, and about how he was like 10 times better than how Proteus was 10 times better than he was, and like he was just sweet talking him to the Duke, and then all of a sudden, now the Duke trusts Proteus so much more, and Proteus goes up to the Duke and then tattles on Valentine. So of course the Duke's gonna trust him now because of the trust that Valentine gave Proteus. So
Yeah, I think that's just.
I think Proteus thinks he's better than Valentine because he's like, I would have a chance with Sylvia because I'm able to like woo the Duke and stuff, even though the Duke's heart's set on him marrying, his daughter marrying Sylvia. That's also also a bad friendship because you should be equal, not think you're better than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I thought it was an important scene because Proteus is trying to get on the good side of Duke, and he exposes Valentine, ruining his chances with Sylvia, and this is kind of like the tipping point of their friendship when he completely betrays him, and then I think it's another big characterization point where it shows that Proteus is he's very dishonest and untrustworthy, and yeah, like when he left Sylvia, it was like another point when he broke their friendship as well. So yeah, I think this was a important point in the text as well, because he then also like tries to remind the Duke that Thurio was like his daughter hates Thurio, and he tries to suggest himself as a better husband for Sylvia than either of those two. And I think this is like it's another point where Proteus goes out and gets out of his way and does something very extra to be able to marry Sylvia, which he like has barely even like. I mean, I don't think he's even seen her at this point. So.
Do we wrap up?
No, that's just like for yourself, I think.
Debrief the experience. This was very useful because every single scene shows like some sort of ironic element, and each scene has a theme to it, and how we all agree that we all thought of similar themes shows how we how we all understand the texts together, and how we all understand how the plot works in itself.
Yeah, I think it helped us better because it's after we've already read most of the play, well, all of the play. So it helped us better understand how each scene contributed to the thought process as we read through it.
Yeah, we also all understand the irony, like the work of irony by Shakespeare.
Yeah, he used a lot of dramatic irony in this
Yeah.
play.
And we all can agree on similar themes, so nobody's has an outlying idea that we don't understand.
Yeah, and also like we said before, it was like the whole play, so we got to see like the whole like big picture of everything and how everything connects.
We're good?
Done. Yeah, we're finished.